On the day before Christmas, my president gave to me 12 indicted Russians, 3 retiring senators, no defense secretary, a fired attorney general, 1 imprisoned campaign manager, a lawyer in the big house, 3 government shutdowns in 1 year, and a failing economy. So to get to the actual story that is of higher significance than my attempt at making a, I guess, parody of what's happened in the last few days. This article from The Hill: Dow has worst Christmas Eve on record. S&P enters bear market. The Dow Jones Industrial Average had its worst recorded Christmas Eve day of trading Monday, dropping more than 640 points, while the S&P 500 dropped more than 50 points and entered a bear market, a 20% fall from its peak in August. The dismal day of trading followed the Dow's worst week since the financial crisis in 2008. The continued market decline followed tweets from President Trump attacking the Federal Reserve. Now, this is significant because I made a video a while back. It was about maybe 2, 3 months, and it was talking about there was going to be another, the economy was going to collapse, we'd have another recession. And the points I made were that, we have all these people that can't afford to buy, most Americans live paycheck to paycheck, which directly translates to what they're able to spend their income on, discretion based, which directly affects businesses, but also more significantly, and this was brought up by Secular Talk earlier today when he did his breaking news video about it this morning. 23% of the wealth is owned by the top 1% for the first time since before the Great Depression. So make of that what you will, but it's significant because a lot of times when you look at the comments that are made by Trump defenders, whether they're people online or actual officials relating to his administration, they will go around, they'll say, oh, the economy is doing so great, so great, so great. And then, when you bring up these wages that have been stagnant for 40 years, you get them to completely shove that out. Or they try to offer these explanations that are all based around BS. The true reason you can't get a minimum wage increase everywhere is because we have corporations who pay out these politicians to oppose it. And, so they can get more money for themselves. They will squeeze every nickel and dime as opposed to paying their workers something that's actually livable. And this would not, be such a big problem if the economy wasn't a big talking point for, Trump and his team. The other 2 major issues are that we've also had the Defense Secretary Mattis, who initially was going to leave at the end of February, get booted earlier, apparently because Trump read his letter that he wrote. And then obviously we have no attorney general. It's a catastrophe. The government shutdown is going to continue for several days until the next session of Congress comes into effect. And we've already talked about how there's no reasonable person is going to blame the Democrats for this. I mean, when 2 sides are opposed to each other at all times, but that one of them controls literally everything, so both chambers of Congress and the presidency, it's kind of hard to empathize with the ones who have all the power. You might say to yourself, well, you're looking to appeal to the minority. Maybe you should get the minority, something worth approving, something that they actually like. Added to the fact that this isn't even the first one this year. And look, up until this year, government shutdowns used to be a very rare, strange thing. We had the one in 2013. I remember I'd actually asked a relative, why have I never heard of these before? And that was because I hadn't been alive at the time of the previous one. They've also had reports that the Interior Secretary is getting ready to get out. The UN ambassador is getting ready to get out. It is a complete shakeup associated with his officials, his administration, the economy, everything. It's all collapsing on him, and it's right before his penultimate reelection year. So the other thing that's of significance as well is that if you look at his top economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, this is a guy that will get touted around as a genius, as someone that's smart, as someone that knows what they're doing. You go and you watch any clip of him from around the time of the recession we had in 2008, and it's very similar to what's happening now. People like myself, and again, Kyle Kalinske of Secular Talk, have been warning this is not going to sustain itself because the majority of people are in a bad condition. You just don't know it because you're not around your little rich buddies. Um, but they go around and they live in this bubble and they try to convince people when they appear on TV, oh, it's all good, it's all great, just as they did 10 years ago. And when it finally blows up, what then will be the reaction? No one could have seen this coming, except that not really. So the only thing I feel sorry about is the effects it will have on regular people, and then obviously what kind of philosophy will be the guiding one in response to it. And it's obviously going to be conservative if it happens while Trump's in office. But maybe this will be the thing that gets people to stop having this weird fetish for him, that 30+% that refuses to budge at all. And we've been saying that for the last 2 years. Oh, maybe this will do it, maybe that will do it. But there has to be some breaking point. I don't think there's any such thing as eternal loyalty to a person you've never met before. And what's getting even more disappointing is that, well, just at least as far as my own ideology is concerned, I was really happy earlier this week, or rather last week, when he pulled out of Syria, and especially in hearing the reports about the potential reduction of the troops in Afghanistan. We have 14,000 over there. He was talking about cutting 7,000 from there, and that pissed off the generals who are, of course, going to bootlick for every single war that we're in. I just wish he would have gone further and just pulled everyone out of there too. We've been there since. I'm going to keep making this point. We have been in Afghanistan since I was 3 years old. 17 years, and they just don't realize people are not in the streets pissed off about this because a lot of them don't know what's going on, or the reasons why it's going on. For the defense contractors to make their money. So ask yourself what can be achieved in the next 17 years that couldn't have been achieved in the last 17. The longest war in American history, man. And I really, I just wish Trump would have ended it. That would actually make me have a little slight more of a worse feeling in comparison to what's happening to him now. But it's funny to watch happen. And I think a lot of times when we sit here and we make all these predictions and stuff, we don't think it can happen in some cases because we get so pessimistic about things being perpetually awful year after year. But him pulling out of Syria was a good thing. The rest of it, not so much. And he's facing the repercussions of it.